That was the plan, wasn't it? To march there to Boyson's and come back.
Look at it. This is the cover of the book.
Yeah.
This is really a peaceful march. The students are
everybody's smiling.
That's what I'm saying. You know.
And it's a remarkable photograph. There's so much to analyze from this photograph. For example, the number of young girls in the march.
Yes.
It seems that the women or the young girls were the majority here.
In fact, that's what I remember. Anastasia is one of the student representatives, that in terms of the content about the uprisings and the analysis, it's always about male students, you know. But when you look at the photographs, I call these documentary photographs because they tell our history, they tell our story. It's just not any other photograph, really. It's documentary photograph because it captures our history. I actually know the same place.
What road is that?
It's forgotten the name of the road, but it's the road from Mofulo going up into Dube, and on your right here is Mofulo Park and the Salvation Army Church here. I've forgotten, but there are maps here. And it's true. I think it's Mahalefele Street. I mean, it's the same road that Thabo Mbeki used when you walked up. Actually, these two pictures were taken at the same place.
So what were you doing on June 16th, that day? Did you come here to school?
Let me say, if you look at the banners themselves, you had to prepare, we had to have banners. If you read the banners themselves in terms of the message that they, so some of us had to be responsible for us, but what we knew was that all of us, because it was indisputable that this march originated from the students in this school. If it was Naledi, if it was Maurice Isaacson, probably we were going to march to either of those schools as a starting point. That was going to be the gathering point if it was either of the two schools. But because this was the main school in terms of the origins of the strike against Afrikaans as a medium of instruction, everybody had to meet here. And from here, we're going to move, as I said, to the regional Bantu education offices. I was at home, as usual, as I said to you, even as early as March when we were on a go-slow. Our parents didn't know that was the case, did the usual things. They went to work, I went to school as usual. Knowing what was going to transpire. It's only my mother was a nursing sister at Baragwanath Hospital. I think when now the injured students were taken to Baragwanath, that was the first time she realized that, oh my God, these kids, what are they up to? But she woke up like any other day, went to work, she didn't know. I also, as I said, woke up, walked to school as usual, but I knew what was going to happen.
It wasn't going to be any other day, but it certainly wasn't the day you thought it turned out to be. Your day was making the banners, walking to the regional offices and coming back again. That was the plan.
Yes, as I said, if you look at the documentary photograph itself, it's so peaceful. Students are singing, students are smiling and laughing amongst themselves. And it was going to be that day. But the banners themselves, the message was carried through the banners themselves. As you can tell, it's Afrikaans must be abolished. As I said, this is more or less speaking to issues of cultural imperialism.
That's right.
This is what we're going to be about until the death of Hector Peterson, when everything changed.
Was it the death of Hector Peterson or the other youngster, Hastings?
Let me say Hector Peterson symbolizes everything that happened that day. I'm using his name in terms that till the police reacted violently, then everything changed. Everything changed. And even amongst us, as I'm saying here, students were no longer smiling.
We've seen those photographs as well. When were you first aware that the police had reacted violently?
Look, at the end of the day, if you look across this school, at the valley, you can actually see Orlando Police Station.
Yes.
You can actually see Orlando Police Station because I had nowhere else to go but come to school, and my school is this school. So one could see across the valley, because I think the police then were using Land Rovers. Yeah, you could actually see them driving Moki Street and coming up Kumali Street, coming up Vilagazi Street. Then when we saw the police driving up here, we knew that, you know, things are going to change. So for us, we knew that we simply had to see what's going to happen. We continued singing. They called us to disperse because I was around this area. There's nowhere else I could go.
So you'd hardly got far on your march before the police were there?
Before the police were there. And as I said, over the valley, across that Klipspruit, you could tell that, wow, the police are coming. And for us, we said, we're still on our march because we thought that everything was going to be peaceful.
And had you already heard about the deaths of the two youngsters?
Not necessarily then, but as time went on, remember that during the day when the police came over here, the security police were using helicopters and everything, you know, take photographs and tear gas. Then I knew that the marches now tend to be violent. And
because the violence spread throughout the day, didn't it?
And what was compelling was the fact that I'm from Mufulo village, and when I went from home to here to school, sometimes I used public transport, the train. Sometimes, particularly in the afternoons, I used to walk back home with friends. And probably as young, then 40, 45 minutes will be enough. But you know, as youngsters, you know, you probably sometimes take an hour or two because along the route you are doing so many things, just being a kid, you know. But eventually you'll arrive at home. But that day, I only arrived home around 7 p.m. in the evening because I had to negotiate my way around the township using back roads and running away from police and gunfire and tear.
And of course, your mother had no idea where you were, yet she was aware from her job as a nursing sister something terrible had happened.
Something terrible has happened. Something terrible has happened because by the time I went back home, I arrived at home, there was a sigh of relief, and because she knew now what was happening, because she had 2 months. Maybe my kid is there as part of those kids. He's not yet back home, and because usually they used to knock up around 4. I'm not sure at what time. She's not the only mother, because you could tell at the station, Phefeni Station and Dube Station, you could tell something was unusual because the trains that were coming back from town to Naledi Station, passing through there, were full of our parents. But during the day, 12, 1, 2, 3, that's not the norm. The trains are empty. The rush hour traffic in terms of our parents coming back from work, it's around 5, 6, 7. You know, in the morning, the rush hour traffic is before 7 because they have to be at work by 8 o'clock. But then probably they said, no, we're not going to be around work. We don't know what's happening with them.
We've got to get home.
We've got to get home, and you could tell that, you know, all the parents were worried. And